Good evening, everyone. Welcome to RATPAC. My name is Anthony Luscre, Kilo 8 Zulu Tango, and tonight's topic is the DX Marathon Sprint. But we're also going to cover the DX Marathon, so it's a two for tonight. My slideshow is available at tiny.cc/dxmra. It'll also be posted with the video for the RATPAC group. But if you want, you can scan the QR code. I'll have that at the end. That'll get you access to all the slides and all the links in the slides. The site for the DX Marathon itself is also listed here. It's www.dxmarathon.com. So many of us have both year-end and New Year's traditions. One of my amateur radio year-end activities is entering the CQ DX Marathon and planning the next year's strategy. The marathon is a different type of contest that runs all year, not just a single day or a weekend. Competitors strive all year to work as many CQ countries as possible, and the CQ countries are similar to the ARRL DXCC entities list with a few additions, and as many of the 40 CQ zones as possible. It's like starting your DXCC chase anew each January 1st, so everyone is a new one on New Year's Day. 6 reasons for taking part in the marathon. If you're a ham new to HF, it's a great way to get your initial ARRL DXCC 100 Counties Worked Award, or to get the CQ World Worked All Zones Award. If you're a contester, it's a great complement to your contesting activities. You don't need to do anything special except for fill out the entry form and submit it. At the end of the year, you just look through all your logs and pull out the information. If you're new to contesting or thinking about getting started in contesting, I have a presentation called Introduction to Contesting that I did for RATPAC in the past, and you can watch the video or view the slideshow of that. The third reason, if you're a DXer, it's a natural fit. If you're new to DXing, though, the K7UA book, there's a link right here. You can click on that and go out and get to that information, and I'll fix that link, of course. Introduction to DXing video that you can watch, and there's other resources throughout this presentation. If you're a long-time DXer with almost all entities worked, it's a great chance to restart the chase again each year with plenty of fresh targets. I know I'm at 328 countries, and it's hard to get a new one. They're not that frequent. But with the CQ Marathon, January 1st, every one of the countries is a new one for me, so it's a great way to revive your DXing spirit. Number 5, if you're a member of a DXing or contesting club or any amateur radio club, it's a good idea to have an inter-club competition. You can bring your friends in the club together and you can have your own internal club competition, run your own monthly scoreboard, and you might want to also help each other out by spotting and helping let other people know when new DX is on the air. 2 of my friends in my local club and I are always texting each other when there's a new one out there so we can bump up our marathon totals. And number 6, for any ham, it's a great way to get on the air, make more contacts, and have fun. Here's the link to the DX Marathon site, and they have an announcement about the sprint on the one page, but there's also information. On this page, there is information on the rules, the results from previous years, records, awards, resources, including submitting your log, and news. We'll talk about the sprint specifically in a little while here, but we'll go over the marathon because the rules are basically the same. The CQDX Marathon is designed to promote DXing activity throughout the year rather than only on contest weekends and during DXpeditions. It also promotes DX activity on the non-contesting bands, so it provides a lot of opportunities to work a new band mode combination. Because activity is not concentrated in a specific time period, credit is given for contacts on all ham bands 160 through 6 meters, including the 60 meter band, 30 meter band, 17 and 12 meter bands. Scoring is very simple. You count up the number of countries you worked and the number of zones you worked during the year, and that's it. There's no multipliers. There are categories you can choose from. There are both limited and unlimited categories. QRP limited, for example, you can't have any kind of beams or any kind of long or high antennas, just very simple antennas and 5 watts or less. QRP unlimited, basically any antennas you want, but 5 watts or less. The Formula 100 is 100 watts with limited antennas. The limited 100 is 100 watts with most antennas, and then there's a Formula Unlimited and an unlimited category with legal power, and one has limited antennas, the other has any antennas you want to choose. So there's basically 6 different categories. Most people are going to end up in one of the 100-watt categories depending on what antennas they have at home. I do operate in the QRP limited category, just using a simple vertical. There are overlays for youth under 25 years of age, YLs, club overlays, and a special K9EL award based on 5-year cumulative scores. The frequencies, you can use any authorized amateur frequencies. Contacts to repeaters or satellites are not allowed for credit, nor are contacts with the maritime or aeronautic mobile stations. All contacts must be made entirely over amateur radio frequencies, i.e. no Echolink or other types of internet-based connections. Any authorized amateur radio mode can be used, but 3 modes will be recognized as the category: CW, phone, and digital. Except for single mode submissions, cross-mode QSOs are permitted, but the mode used by the DX station must be shown in the submission. So you can work all 3 of these modes and all the subsets of them. So you can work single sideband, you can work AM, you can work FM. Those are all considered phone. You can work digital, FT8, FT4, RIDI. Those are all together. If you do a mixed mode operation, it counts all the different categories, but you can also enter a single mode if you want to. Now, one of the things you have to do at the end is you only get to make 1 entry per person. So if you do decide you want to enter a single mode entry, you can't enter any other entry. The contest period runs from 000 UTC January 1st to 2359 December 31st each year. The entry deadline is the 5th of January. Each entrant in the DX Marathon may submit only 1 log. That's what I mentioned earlier. And there's more information about primary and secondary stations, but I'm not going to go into that today. You can read those rules for more information. Verification. QSLs are not required. The operator is expected to only claim contacts from stations that the operator has every reason to believe are legitimate, and only to claim contacts in which an accurate two-way exchange was clearly accomplished. Scores will be adjusted by the DX Marathon Committee for claim contacts with pirates or any other station not considered legitimate. Submissions may be penalized or voided in cases of fraud or poor sportsmanship, and every QSO may be subject to verification by the DX Marathon manager, but you can submit contacts that do not have QSLs. I mentioned earlier that CQ Marathon uses the ARRL DXCC plus 6 additional countries. So you get 6 extra ones that are not in the ARRL DXCC. These are mainly from the old CQ world countries and from the Workdoll Europe country list. So the first one is African Italy. This is Lampedusa or Pantanerelia, basically your IG9s and your IH9s off the north coast of Africa. The difference about these Italian stations, they are in zone 33. All the rest of the Italian stations are in zone 15. Plus, there's 5 countries from the Workdoll Europe list. Scotland, Shetland is a separate entity. So you work Scotland and then you can work Shetland as a separate entity. It has to be someone on the island of Shetland. The other islands don't count. Italy, Sicily is another separate one that's not on the DXCC list. European Turkey, which are basically the TA1s versus the Asian turkeys, and the UN, Vienna United Nations organizations, including 41 VIC and 4-1. I can't remember the other ones off the top of my head, but they have them listed. And Bear Island and Svalbard count as two separate islands. So Svalbard and Bear Island are both considered the same Svalbard on the DXEC list, but so you can get these extra six if you work them. Some of them are hard to get. So here's just a little description of each one. Here's Pantarellia and Lampedusa. These Laponia and Lenosa also count. These are the ones in Zone 33. Shetland Islands, there's no good way to tell other than looking at a list of who operated where. And a lot of times the Shetland operators might be guest operators, so they might not have addresses there. So they keep a list of people that they know have operated from Shetlands in the last couple of years. This portion of Turkey is considered the European part, west of the Bosporus Strait, or the Strait of Bosporus. And Istanbul hangs over the strait itself. You have to be careful though, because sometimes there's special event call signs that have TA1 or TA100 or something like that. Make sure you have to check the location of the station. 4U1 VIC, the Vienna International Center. There's a list including 4U1A, which is one of the more common contest stations from there. It's not the same as 4U1 UN. And by the way, 4U1 WB doesn't count as a separate country for this, just as it doesn't count as a separate country for the DXCC. It actually counts as the United States. It doesn't have sovereign territory like the other UN stations. So that's all the extras you can get. If you're serious about scoring highly, most competitors start at the beginning of the year. Now, you're saying, Anthony, it's October. I can't start at the beginning of the year. Well, that's where the sprint comes in, because the sprint is starting this weekend and will run for 10 days. So you get a chance to just do the sprint and be on equal footing with everyone. Plus, you can start planning your year 2026. So you can do that. But even if you did not plan on operating the contest all year, you can still go through your log, pull out all the DX entities and all the zones and submit them. So you might, if you're a DXer, you might have a very high score without even trying to have it. So this mini marathon, the short duration sprint, runs from October 18th through October 27th. The rules are basically the same, and here's a link to the rules. There are a few slight differences, and I'll have those on the next slide. It's a chance for new participants to try the marathon on a limited basis. It also includes the days of the CQDX Worldwide Single Sideband Contest, the largest DX contest of the year. So there's be a lot of good DX on during that time period. So it's a really good time to have the sprint, because there'll be a lot of stations that will count towards it. So the differences are the activity period, of course, is only 10 days instead of a whole year. There's no single band entries, but there are single mode categories if you want to do that. And everyone who participates in the sprint and submits a entry will receive a certificate of merit that highlights their key accomplishments in the participation. So it'll say things like highest score in 8th call district or something like that. The goals for both the sprint and the marathon are get on the air early and often during the year or during the 10-day period. You don't want to miss the big contest. Well, for the sprint, there's only one big contest, but it's the biggest of them all, and that's the CQ Worldwide. But when we're talking about the marathon, there's actually 4 CQ Worldwides: the single sideband in October, the CW in November, the RIDI in September, and the Digi in August. As far as the CQWPXs, there's a single sideband, CW, and RIDI, March, May, and February. The ARRL has the International DX Contest, CW and single sideband late January, early February each year. The RIDI Roundup is actually the first major contest of the year. It's the weekend after the 1st of January, so it comes up very quickly. And you can get your first 100 in that if you really jump in on it. And then the Worked All Europe, and that's a good chance to get the things like Shetland and the other islands, because some people get on because they are multipliers in that contest specifically. They have a CW single sideband and RIDI version. Those run in September and October. They actually might start in August. There's a great book about The marathon. I'm not sure if it's still in print. It's called A Year of DX by Bob Loker, W9KNI, and he's the author of The Complete DXer. And this is the book that I cut my teeth on with DXing. There's information about it here. I don't know if it's still in print uh, or still available to order. It may not be, but you can find used copies. I actually found a signed copy by Bob at the Orlando Hamfest 2 years ago, or a few years ago. I also have a web page that has a bunch of resources on DXing and DXing news, so you can find out what DXpeditions are coming up in the future. And during that 10-day period, you can plan what's going to be on the air. A great place for any type of activity, including DXing and contesting, is the NG3K site. He has something called the Announced DX Operations, and each month there's a list of stations that are going to be on there. So I worked the OX3LX earlier in the month. It's going to be on until the 28th of October, but I worked them on the 10th of October. There's also another link up here at the top that says contest, and this will have a listing of the CQ worldwide stations that are going to be on there. And you can see there's a lot of DX going to be on, and there'll be more that'll show up in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to tell you a top secret for working stations in the CQ worldwide. You don't get points in the contest for doing it, but if you're just interested in working the DX, a lot of stations are on the air on Friday, testing out equipment and sometimes playing around on the work bands or in other modes. So don't forget to be on the air and listening on Friday morning before the contest starts to catch some of them before the contest gets going. There's information at DX World of upcoming DXpeditions and activities. And the same thing at the 425 DX 425 News. As far as finding stations, you can check the DX clusters or the reverse beacon network if you're a CW operator. Phone and other modes will be on these other places. And if you're a FT8, FT4 operator, checking out PSK Reporter. You can also get the AWRL DX bulletin sent to you each week. You can go to, if you have to be an AWRL member, go into your profile and adjust your settings and say that you want to get the W1AW DX bulletin, and it'll be sent to you via email. I have a document here that tells you how to do that. So if you click on this document, it'll take you out and it'll tell you about all the AWRL resources, not just the bulletins, but also how to subscribe to the various bulletins and get to all the resources that they have. If you keep your amateur radio log in an electronic logbook, entering the DX Marathon can be very easy. You export your log information as an ADIF file, and almost every logging program has the ability to do this. You simply go in and you tell it you want to export files from January 1st on, or if you're just doing the sprint from December 10th through December 18th into an ADIF file. And then Sebastian, KI2D, created a submission tool that makes it very easy to import your ADIF automatically into the form that you need to submit for the marathon. You then need to fill out the rest of the information, your call sign, contact information, your antennas, what categories you're entering the contest as, and then you click a button and you can submit it. Now, the nice thing is you can submit it all year. Every time you update it, you can submit it. So if you don't ever submit one the rest of the year, you already have one on tap. And I'll show you how to do that in a few minutes here. So this is what the form looks like. You click on here to load your new files, or if you've been doing it already, you click here to continue and upload newer files. It will generate a report that looks similar to this, and I'll go through the whole thing in a few minutes here, but it shows you the countries that you haven't worked, it shows you the countries you have worked, and if there's more than one station you worked, it'll give you a little plus over here so you can choose which one you want to submit. If you're still using a paper log, you can download this spreadsheet and type your information in, and then this can be uploaded into the contest software. You want to double check on the website. They list pirates, calls that are busted that people might have gotten wrong. Check all that information and don't submit one of those, because if you do submit one of those calls, it will get canceled out and you won't get credit for it. And I'm going to go through this whole I'm going to skip over this whole part on checking, but these are the kind of things you need to check for. One of the things that's very common is a problem with zone number 2 in Canada. It's hard to figure out which stations are really there sometimes. Uh, and some of the zones in China are a little confusing. So this is all information on stations. I would suggest you don't submit one of the Antarctic stations as a zone because the zones are, again, hard to figure out, and a lot of them meet in Antarctica. But you do want to submit an Antarctic station. This is what you get for the CQ DX Marathon. This was 2019. I was first in the US uh, in call sign 8. So the main person that's running this whole thing is Mark, WC3W, and he also has some other people on the committee that work with him. They also have a Groups.io mailing list. You can subscribe to it and get the latest information. One of the nice things on this is when there's a questionable station that comes up, they'll discuss it on the mailing list to see whether it's real or whether it's a pirate or something like that. And again, that's all the information. I'm going to give a demo in a minute, but if you want, you can shoot this QR code or write down this link. That'll get you access to the slideshow. And then I'll do a quick demonstration of how this actually works. So let me go ahead and go to the demonstration. I'm going to go to my logging software. Your logging software is going to be different, depends on what you have. But basically, there'll be somewhere, either tools or something, to export a log in ADIF format. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to use this little tool here to set the criteria. And I'm going to say that I want everything that is since January 1st, 2025. I'm going to say, okay, I want to download that. I'm going to call it 2025 Marathon. You can call it anything you want, doesn't matter, just as long as you know where it goes when you're done with it. So there we go. It's going to export it. 3,078 contacts. It's done. And now we go to we're done with the logging software. We go back to the Marathon website. So let's go there. Once you go there, you go to the resources section. You click on the software tools, and then you click on the entry tool right here. Now, if you're loading new files, you would do it from here. It's the same. I'm going to just continue with this. The end result you'll see will look the same, but I've already got my information there, so I'm going to continue. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say that I want to add or update a file. I'm going to go to that file that I just downloaded. There it is. I'm going to open that and it imports it in there, and it tells me that it found some matches for some of the African prefixes and for Sicily. And we're done with that. We'll go back and I'll show you where you can find that if you need to change it. So it says I have 180 claim points. I have 148 entities and 32 zones so far this year. And if I click on the zones, it'll show me the zones I've worked and the ones I haven't worked. And you can see I've not worked 17, 18, 19, 21, and 34. So hopefully I'll work some of those next week or 2 weeks from now in the CQ Worldwide. Now, for example, let's say this station that's that's Northeast North America. There's a station listed there, and I'm sorry, Western North America. There's a station listed there, KF7GMV. That's perfectly acceptable. But if I wanted to change it, I have 227 other ones I could pick. You want one that's been QSL because that even gives you more assurance that it's a good call sign because you've obviously gotten a QSL from it. But you can do this for any of them. You can pick which one you want. So if any of them are like a portable station that's, operating from outside the area, I might not want that one. But it looks like I have pretty good ones here. But I can check and see if any of these, like this is a special event call. Maybe I don't want to use that one. Maybe I want to use a regular call sign like D4K. So I can do that, and then it changes it in the selection here. Let's go back and look at the entities. When you scroll down, you can do the same thing with any of these, and you'll see the ones that are there, whether you have a QSO or whether you have at least one QSL. If you click on this third tab at the top, it'll take you to the worked all zone. I'm sorry, worked all Europe. So you see I don't have 4-1. I don't have 4U1V. I don't have a Shetland Island station yet. I do have African Italy and I do have Sicily. I don't have Bear Island or Eastern Europe. But let's say Shetland Island, I know that there was a station I worked that was in Shetland Island. I can type in the call sign and I can actually enter that. If I knew for sure that he was in the Shetland Islands, I could do that and enter it. I'm not going to do that because that's not a Shetland Island station. That's just a station I made up. So once you get all three of those done, the next thing you do is you click the continue button. And it lets you set up your information for your name, your call sign, your zone, mailing list, etc. You can put in comments if you want. Then it brings you to the antenna section. Well, actually, the category section. The first thing you want to decide is what you want to enter. Do you want to enter all bands, mixed modes, a single band, or a single mode? Do you have any overlays? What power are you running? And then information on your antenna, the highest antenna, wire antennas, beam antennas, rotatable dipoles. And then you can actually type in a description of all your antennas at the bottom. And I have a 43-foot vertical is all I'm using this year because my tower came down a couple years ago in a storm. So this year, 43-foot vertical, 5 watts. I'm ready to go. I click continue and it says, here's the call sign, here's the name, here's my score, here's the category you're entering. And you click on submit your entry and it uploads it. Now, something new this time is I forgot to show you where you click it, but there's a little box that says, do you want to be included on the leaderboard? If you say yes, your call sign will get put on the leaderboard. So if I come in here and look under QRP Limited, you'll see that I am leading my category right now. And the leaderboard's only been up for about a month, so there's not a lot of people that have submitted and are on the leaderboard. But you can see in the unlimited category, 294 points this year. So let's assume they got all 40 zones. That means they've worked 254 countries so far this year. Pretty good so far. You can look at each of the different categories. As I said, the leaderboard is new, so it doesn't have a lot of information here, but more will be showing up later. So that's basically it. That's how you do it. And I'd be happy to answer questions, take comments, etc. Again, this is the link to the slideshow. There's an addendum on how to that I just demonstrated, but there's information on how to export from different programs. I've actually, let me go back a slide here. I've actually went through and found information on exporting from all of these logging software. The one I couldn't find was for Logic, and I actually recorded that one. So it's actually a recording of me doing it. What I just showed you. But you can pick your logging software from here and it'll tell you how to export an ADIF file. You can also export an ADIF file from QRZ. If all your logs are on QRZ, you can export it from there. There's also an ADIC, ADIF to DX Marathon tool available from AD1C. Not really necessary anymore. It used to be very helpful, but with the new entry forms, you don't really need to use that. And I described the submission process, which I just demonstrated. So that's it. This is my list of all my presentations. You can always go there and get more information on my other presentations besides the ones for RATPAC. So what I'll go do now is I'll go ahead and take questions from the group or comments, and you can either type them in chat or you can raise your hand and we'll acknowledge you. Yeah, go ahead, Ed.
I really thank you, Anthony, because with you and a few guys at our Wisconsin club, I got started with the state QSO parties. Been doing them for many years. I only get 3 or 4 hours on a weekend, but submit those scores and come out pretty good considering I just have an indoor antenna and running about 75 watts. So now I think this for next year, I think I've got the DX bug, and it started with a few of these contests. And King of Spain was one of them, UBA, WAE. Then you come out with nice certificates, even of participation, and I even got a ribbon from a Dutch contest.
Well, that's great.
I'm never going to go after number one, but I do want to enjoy it. And that's what I did with State QSO Party. So my best question is for really, really getting DX stations, especially during the week, is there an optimal time and band or frequency that are really good either on CW or voice during the week?
During the week. Okay, so Monday through Friday, or let's say Monday through Thursday, um, the band level, the activity level usually drops off considerably. Now, there might be a good D expedition that's on, but your average DX station who's not a D expedition, the person that's at home, the thing that you want to do is you want to figure out A, when the likely time is they'd be operating. So quite often evening during the week. So make sure you figure out what their time is. So the time difference means it's going to be substantially different from you. Then you have to figure out for the area of the world that you're looking at, when is the propagation from there to you best? And then once you start figuring that out, you figure out which band it's best on. So you got to make really three decisions. You need to figure out what their local evening time is, when that will be for you, and which band would likely be open at that time. So if you do those three things, you'll start to get better at it, and it starts becoming second nature where to look. The other thing too is, have a good form of cluster that you're following. I use a tool. Let me bring this up real quick here. Although I don't have it installed on this computer yet, or do
Yeah,
I?
I want to graduate from DX Summit and the hotspots. Do you have anything that's even really more specific?
I'm using a program that actually is an overlay type of program. It's VE9. Let me see if I have it installed on this computer. I may not have installed it yet. I don't think I did. No, I didn't. It's VE9 SUN, I think it is. One second here. That's not it. Let me see if I have it in my information section. Let me go ahead and share the screen here again. I just started setting this new computer up this week, and there's a lot of things that still need to get taken care of on here. KCT. So if you go to my website, there's a section called DX News, but there's also a section on uh, logging and QSO, I'm sorry, propagation and spotting. And here there's things like DXscape, DX Heat. The reverse if you do operate CW, the reverse beacon network is really good to use. And a lot of the local clusters have it. So if you go to this one right here, where's it at? This one right here, it says DX cluster info. There's a directory of telnet stations that you can pick, and I'd find someone that's close to you that also has a reverse beacon network at their site. So like for me, K3LR has that about 50 miles away. So you find someone close like that, and then you can use this with all your programs. You can pull it into N1MM or whatever logging software you're using. So by using the telnet server ones, you can get very specific. And then you can also set filters to say you only want to see spots from stations who are within maybe a thousand kilometers of you. You don't want to see anyone that's spotting on the other side of the country because, of course, those spots don't help you out a lot. But go through this section here, take a look at some of these, and I think you might find those useful. And again, it's a learning process. You'll keep learning more about propagation. A couple tricks that I've found over the years is, as I mentioned earlier, that little trick about a Friday before a major contest. Get on all day get on the morning on Friday before the contest starts in the evening. A lot of stations are testing equipment out, and they're playing around on multiple bands and multiple modes that they might not be using during the contest. And they're not necessarily busy. So that, there's about 5 or 6 contests during the year where it's worth it spending a Friday listening for stations before the contest
Good
starts.
idea. It's a good idea.
So that's one thing I would really suggest. The other thing too is there's a couple contests that are sprints like the CWT, usually not a lot of DX, but occasionally on 10 meters. If you do the CWTs on Wednesday, occasionally on 10 meters, some DX will pop in, like Norfolk Island, uh, Oceana will jump in. They're not going to jump in on the lower bands, but they'll jump in on the higher bands if they're open. The other trick too that I've learned, not so much when 10 is open, but when 10 is not open and you're doing something like the CQ Worldwide, make sure you check between about 2 and 4 p.m. Eastern time, or 2 or 4, about 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern time or your equivalent time, because quite often you'll get trans-equatorial even when 10 is not open. You might only hear 10 or 15 stations, but they're all new DX that day because on that band because you haven't been working anything because the band's been closed, and there's usually not a lot of competition for them because most people aren't spending time there because they say 10's dead, so they're not going to spend time there. Another trick too is near the end of the contest on both evenings when the bands start to close, go back up to 15 and listen for Oceana coming in. That's when I've worked like Vanuatu and places like that, and there's almost no one on the band. And if you tune around and listen, they're not going to be strong, but they'll be there when the band is seems like it's closed already.
Yeah, that's when I hit some of the Asian stations
Yeah.
just for fun and QSLing.
You're in Virginia, aren't you, Ed?
Virginia Beach, yeah.
Yeah. So you're pretty much the same time frame as I am. And even in Virginia Beach, you're gonna have a better chance for that trans-equatorial than I'll have from Ohio. So when 10's closed, make sure you check in the early afternoon during major contest for 10-meter activity.
Yeah, I've never been really interested in DXing as a way to get like DXCC. And
Hmm.
it's funny because I've looked at my QSL collection and I'm really close. I mean, I'm up to, to get DXCC, so I might as well just go ahead and push it through. I
Yeah.
may not be if you know KN4KL down here and Ed Williams, but I'll never be him,
Yeah.
but I don't try to be.
Well, I'm not gonna be on the honor roll with my 5 watts and my vertical antenna, but 328's not too bad. The other tricks for everyone out there, if you can operate all modes and all bands, that increases your chances greatly too. Don't miss out on DX just because you don't operate a mode. I know people that say, I only operate phone or I only operate CW. Well, then you're going to miss out sometimes. If you do all modes, it's going to increase your chances. If you operate FT8 and FT4, don't forget to check FT4, especially on the higher bands. This last weekend I worked or no, what was it? On the 10th. So yeah, this last weekend I worked um let me just show you real quick what I worked. It was a remarkable afternoon. It started by hearing TA I heard TA8 CA, but I didn't work with media, but I worked EL2 in Liberia. And then I worked a Scottish station, and then I worked the TR8 CA. And when I was on FT4 10 meters, I heard 5R IC from Madagascar. So I worked all those guys in that short period of time on FT4. And then not too long after that, where's it at? I think it was I worked OX3LX on 10-meter FT8. And when I was there, then I also heard E6AD from Nui over in the Pacific, and I worked him. So those were all on the 10th. So I worked like a bunch of DX on the 10th. Well, hopefully that answers your question. Other questions, comments? That was a great question.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Gene.
Yeah, when it comes to manual logs, i.e., paper,
Hmm.
pencil, or pen, to enter is you do scan it and send as an email attachment.
Nope, no, you're gonna have to type it into a form, an online form. So you might as well start by logging electronically and save your time typing later. Yeah, you have to use this form. You have to fill out this spreadsheet form. So you're basically filling out a spreadsheet. This is it right here with this information. but you can't send them the paper. You have to fill this out and then you have to submit this electronically.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
very good. Any other questions? Well, today is the 15th. Actually, it's the 16th already UTC. So that means that there's 2 days until the sprint starts. So, gentlemen, start your engines and get ready to sprint and go out and work some DX. If there's no other questions, I thank everyone for being here tonight. Remember, RATPAC is here every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. If you have topics or speakers you'd like to hear, please let us know. You can go to ratpac.us. There's a space there for you to contact us or to make suggestions. And you can also see upcoming sessions. Dan,
Yes, sir.
any words of wisdom?
No, I just gotta find my, okay, where are you? Now I can talk. My screen was hiding this stuff. I just get out there and DX and have fun. If Anthony can do it with 5 watts and a makeshift vertical antenna, by darn, everybody can do it.
Just don't cover me up when I'm calling.
And have fun doing it.
Yes. Thanks, Barry.
Yeah, I didn't see Barry pop in.
Yeah, my technology was acting up. I finally got it fixed. I think I need to add more memory.
Matter of fact, while I was busy talking, this showed up. BG0 DLA China on 20 meter FT8. So I will quickly go over it and take a look at that and
Go
see.
for it.
Now, I know it's not a big deal for those of you on the West Coast, but from here, it's not easy. So we'll see whether that's there.
You're just an opportunist.
And that's the fun thing. If you have a friend or another ham in your area that you want to send information back and forth like that, it's sort of fun. Matter of fact, when I looked here, now see, I went there and looked, and not only is the BY there, but there's also a TY. Or the BG's there, and there's also a Zone 19, which I need. So we got a bunch of good things to try out here.
Someone's not going to get any sleep tonight.
Yeah, I got class tomorrow. I had to get a little bit of sleep, but so that's it. I'm gonna go ahead and stop my share, and Dan,
Okay,
take it away.
fine enough. And I'm going to end it. Say 73s, everybody, and I'll see you next week.